Hello there. I'm Nu-Trix, and today we're looking into the history of synthesis. No, I'm not joking, but just a little bit, because one thing that is fabulous about the fact that we have access to virtual synthesizers is we have access to devices from the past, stuff that either I cannot get my hands on because it costs too much, or only a few are left today. It's always a great thing when it's different and they give you access to other type of sounds. And that's the case today. Today we will look into Crumar Spirit. Now, it's released by Cherry Audio. It actually was designed and made with people from the old Crumar company. Very quickly, the Crumar company was an Italian company making electric organs, pianos in the 70s and the 80s. When synthesizer became interesting and bigger in the 80s, well, they started their hands at it. And at one point, they got together with Robert Moog. They sat down and they decided to build the Spirit, the synthesizer we'll talk about today. It's easy to look at the Crumar Spirit and say, it's a 2 oscillator subtractive synthesis synth. It has features that we don't see often, not to say I dare not to have seen anywhere before. I'll do a tour of what it does differently, with a couple of things that I haven't seen anywhere else. And on top of that, Cherry Audio added stuff that makes it even more alive and interesting. If you just want to hear how it sounds like, go to the end of the video. You've got a section where I'm going to play the presets so we have an idea of the sound of the Crumar Spirit. So you have the synthesizer section, the whole thing. The multi-voice at the bottom here, we'll finish with this. It's something that is added by Cherry Audio. It opens up the multi section because the original synthesizer was monophonic. So at the bottom, you've got 2 modulation, the X mod and the shaper Y, plus you have the pitch bend. So you have control here of stuff more than usual, and you have the amount here. You can actually decide the depth of how this will affect anything. And if you look at the last section at the bottom, you've got effects, distortion, flanger, echo, reverb. Okay, what's that? And then you click on the green, and you also have envelope filter, dual phaser, flanger and chorus, and echo. And if you click on effect, you can see that, and you can edit all of these parameters. This is, of course, added. It wasn't part of the original, but it gives a lot of control and movement and sound quality to this synthesizer because it has a good sounding effect processing. And there's 2 in parallel. And we'll explain why there's 2 in parallel. So we have the oscillator section. You got oscillator A and B. Basically, you've got a square wave that goes from a triangular wave here. Triangular. That's the pulse width. You can have selected different pulse widths. So 50%, 30%, 15, and 6. And then the last one is a sawtooth. If you compare it to the next one, you've got 40, 20%, 10%, 3%. So basically, if you pick the 2 together, they will not be able to have the same sound because they cannot have the same pulse width. So automatically, it will create a different sound, which is interesting. Makes it more valuable in that case. The octave, 32, 16, 8, and 4. You can sync the 2 together. Basically, the second one is sync to the first one if that's what you want to do. Second one, outside of the percentage of the pulse width being different, you have one that's called bass and one that is wide. Bass, basically, it doesn't follow the keyboard anymore. So it's for droning. I have a drone, and then here. But it could become an LFO because in the matrix of modulation here, you could use oscillator 2 to modulate something else. So this Right now, by going drone and bringing it really low, this could be seen as becoming an LFO. And if you don't want to hear it, you bring that one to 0 and you'll only listen to A. And then A could be modified by the modulation of Oscillator B. So that's why this is open here, but also it's part of the sound. If you want a drone sound, you have this, and you have the wide, which is, and again, same logic. All the keys are not following, so it's really for having a fixed frequency playing in it. So these two together will go into this filter here, which is bizarre in the design because you've got the upper filter and the lower filter. It has nothing to do with frequency because, yes, there are filters, but it's not like upper frequency and lower frequency. That's not it. It's just upper of the graphic and lower of the graphic. That's interesting. You've got the master cutoff frequency here, which is a low pass, and you have a choice of 12 or 24. It's very nice and rich sounding filter that we expect. We have the 24 or the 12. So the Oberheim or the Moog flavor. Right now the filter is in low mode, low for the resonance. So there's very little resonance in it. And if you click this, you can change how much resonance you want because you're in variable mode. What's weird with this is you have a second filter here, which is happening in parallel. If you put it at 8, it's the value that you have here. So as you move this, you're moving the two filters at the same time. If let's say we're going to put this into high pass, you basically have just a peak because you're cutting high on one side and low on the other side. If you put it a little bit higher, you're having even a smaller peak because you're positioning them in a kind of a crossover. If you go the other route, you get a wider shape that you're moving, but you're cutting on each side. So we've got a band pass, if you want, but a very wide band pass that you have here. Because this one is the low cut, that's a low pass, so it's cutting high frequency. This is the high pass, because I'm in high pass right now. And if you click on formant, you have that nasal type of voices type of sound. Go dynamic, then you have more of the natural sounding. So you have a high pass, a bend pass, or you can also bring that up and then just, but like they're parallel. You'll still hear the other one. So if you don't want to hear this one, you would have to close this one and then. So it's kind of weird the way it reacts. But this one control, this is the master control for the two. And this is kind of the difference from the master control. Now the one that I really like is the overdrive. This one has a lot of guts. You've got a filter envelope to control this, and you got a loudness envelope to control that. So the two of them can have a very nice this is probably the section that feels the most traditional, you know, outside of the fact that the filters are kind of weird in the way they interact. But if you just use the first one, the two oscillators and the volume and the envelopes, basically is the traditional synth that we all know. You have a mod X, shaper Y, and matrix Z. For mod X is basically a modulation, the source of modulation. It's an LFO. You got different shapes you can pick from. You've got Y. Y is basically, you can use the shaper Y as a source. You got the red noise, which is a recreation of the original chip of the noise that used to be there. And you have oscillator B. As I said earlier, oscillator B can become the LFO. So these are the sources of modulation of LFO. You want this to be shaped by Y. So Y, this one we'll talk a bit after, but this one is it's a series of modulation that could control also the shape of modulation. So the modulation could be modulated if that's what you want. You get the speed of it, and you can say where it's going to be affecting. And then if you want to hear it, you have to bring that up. So let's say we're going to assign it to, if I send it to it's set to filter, and the depth is basically here. Now we have shaper Y, and shaper Y, it's kind of, what is that section? To understand a bit of what this is, let's go on this other side here with the audio mixer. You have filter and ADSR. So basically what's coming out of the filter is here for A and B. And you can have also noise. You can bring the noise in. And the type of noise you have, we can click here, pick noise, white noise. So the red noise is the vintage one. So next section is shaper Y path. So you can bring here A and B. You have a ring modulation between these two. You have the noise you can bring. There's a brightness. Shaper brightness. So this brings back A and B in parallel of going through the filter. You could say, I don't want to use this at all, the filter, and I'm just going to use that section. But the shaper can be shaped here. So you see, this also controls another amplitude here, VCA. I'm in keyboard hold right now. I'm controlling the speed. It's like if I'm controlling, let's say here. But there's a keyboard hold, so it's going to stay. I can have every time I play, I'm re-triggering the shape. I'm just gonna I've got this attack and decay. I can have this. It opens and closes. So the LFO being re-triggered becomes the envelope here for this. And you get this running, that reset, that free running. If you want it to work like a keyboard, this is weird. Fun, but weird. So you have a different, it's like having a second synthesizer, a second layer, using the same oscillators. You have this, controlling the way it reacts. You have different destination on top of that because this is the wheel destination. So if I bring that up, do I want this to control the LFO rate? LFO rate means that it's going to control the mod X. Do I want this to control the filter? So now I have the two sounds through the filter controlled by the modulation X plus controlled by the shaper Y, and I've got some sound coming in. Actually, I could have some type of combination. You know, I could say so this is very different. This is not something we see in synthesizers, especially older analog synthesizers. This is something that is basically two synthesizers into one because you have two separate paths. And one goes into the filter, the other one goes into a brightness, and both of them have their own control. So it's bizarre, it's weird, it's fun. On top of that, you've got a quirky arpeggiator. If you turn it on, you get ripple. Basically, ripple is going to be playing the notes up. You get arp. You get leap. It goes a little bit lower and get swing on it. You get chants, which is interesting. As you bring down the chants, well, some notes won't play because they'll be out of chance. You can pull or you can push the notes so they can be fast or early or late, basically. So it's a little bit quirky, but it's fun. Let's turn that off for now. And the other thing that is different is the multi-voice. So if we go here into multi, because you got mono, unison, poly, cycle, and multi, the poly, the cycle, and the multi opens up these here. So what's interesting is this is something we've seen in other Cherry Audio synthesizers, is you have control over 4 voice. Well, the 4 voices that you have here, the 4 voices that you have, you can control them separately. The first one is the one you see on screen. The second one could be, I don't know, 5 semitone higher, pan on one side. The other one could be in pine on the other side. I'm going to go 5 semitone down. So every time I press one key, so it plays between these. And you can say, well, I want to have filter open up, filter a little bit closed, this one really opened. So it becomes an arpeggiator by itself because every time you press the same key, it will also play different notes. So that's really bizarre. Oh, actually, not bizarre. This is really fun because it opens up to a lot of different things. You have a loop, you have ping pong, so it's going to go through. So it's going through the 4, going voice 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it goes. So you can create rhythm and melody with this, and you get the random here and random. Never know what's going to be happening. After that, you bring all the effects on board that are interesting. You've got the distortion. Let's say we go effects. You get distortion. You can control that. A lot of control, a lot of, I mean, they sound good, honestly. Just turn them on. And you have different ones for shaper Y. Now, it means that shaper Y, the sound that are here, can also have these effects. One thing they added that I found really fun is they added a Mooger Fooger style filter envelope here. So if I don't use these, so this is, with this, you have on your shaper Y, you have a filter. So it brings back into the notion of the Crumar Spirit being really like two different synthesizers into one box. Plus phaser, flanger, chorus, and echo. All of that just adds more stuff to the sound. And you have a modulator. You have a LFO that can be assigned to these so they can move with the effect of the modulator. I mean, you can decide what you want to have type of modulation here and say how much you want this to move. Like, you hear that movement now. So this effect now is controlling this. So this, in a way, also it becomes really modulation mayhem if you wanted to. It's just really powerful. Let's try some of the sounds you'll hear. That's the sound of the Crumar Spirit by Cherry Audio. Stay safe, make new music, and see you soon. Cheers.